This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day our producer Louis had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy. If a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could texture whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track extra. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Downs and I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and this young lady here is Lilith Tinkerbell, who is my favourite of the cats, but don't tell the others. Today's episode of On Track Extra is a story that I picked up late one night while I was pootling about on Quora. It's something I quite often do when I can't sleep, usually because I'm in too much pain. So I mess about on Quora and hunt down stories that might be good for the show, and this is one of them. However, before we start, I want you to have a gander at this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of an organisation called the Centre for Fortean Zoology, which is the largest mystery animal research group in the English-speaking world, and we like to think the best. We've been going now for over 30 years, and in those 3 decades we have sometimes carried out campaigns to try to raise money for equipment or for expedition expenses. But one thing we never do is to raise money for ourselves, because money is nowhere near as important as the search for expanding the boundaries of human knowledge, which is, at the risk of sounding horribly self-important, what this organisation is all about. However, we are a family in a very real sense, and there have been times over the years that we have made appeals to raise money for members of the CFZ family who are down on their luck. And this time I want to tell you about my friend Lars Thomas. He was one of the earliest members of the Centre for Fortean Zoology back when, in 1994, we started publishing our magazine, Animals and Men. And I have known him therefore for 30 years this year, which seems to be a remarkable length of time. He has recently become very ill, and he's in a hospital, partially paralysed and not able to work or indeed do anything very much. And so Richard Freeman phoned me the other night and suggested that we do a crowdfunding exercise to try and raise some money for him while he is in such a dire straits. And so I had a word with Miss Guinevere, and she went and set it all up. And you can read all about the appeal here at this link. What I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, is that Lars is a very nice, sweet and kind man who's been very kind and generous to all of us over the years, and it's about time, I think, that the CFZ paid something back. Please dig deep in your pockets and do whatever you can to support this very worthwhile appeal. As regular CFZ watchers will know, for the last 20 years plus, I have been particularly interested in the stories of the North American blue dogs, and as a result I've got particularly interested in the phylogeny of the New World Canids. Now, I've recently started looking at the South American foxes, and this rather fetching creature is an Andean fox who is half begging, half afraid to beg for cookies, being proffered to it by a picnicking family. You might think, therefore, that the show today is going to be about Andean foxes. Well, it's not. It's actually about this creature, a pampas fox. But because I couldn't find any free-to-use public domain footage of a pampas fox, I decided to go with this footage of an Andean fox, which looks very similar, because it is the best way that I could think of giving you a visual representation of the animal that I'm talking about today, because it's a very strange story. Are you sitting comfortably, boys and girls? Good. Then I'll begin. As you can see from this simplified cladogram, the genus Vulpes, which is the foxes, separated off from the rest of the Caninidae about 7 million years ago, and the genus Canis, which is the dogs and wolves, and remember that the domestic dog, especially Archie, is very proud of his lineage, are a subspecies of the grey wolf. The genus Canis separated off about 4.3 million years ago. So they are related, but very, very different. Now, one of the things that has fascinated me for many years are the claims of intergeneric hybridization between dogs or wolves and foxes. The most recent of these accounts comes in a book which was recommended to me by none other than Michael Butterworth, who is best known to people of a certain age for being the author of a book called Time of the Hawk Lords, a science fiction novel allegedly co-written with Michael Moorcock, although as far as I'm aware Michael Moorcock had nothing to do with it at all and only had his name added on for commercial purposes, written about fictionalized versions, or I hope they're fictionalized versions, of the most classic lineup of the band Hawkwind, who, again coincidentally, are Graham's favourite band, as anybody who's ever lived within about half a mile of us will probably attest. I've never yet been able to come across any concrete proof that foxes and dogs, or foxes and wolves, can actually hybridize, but I live in hope. My most recent piece of evidence came in a story that I picked up from Quora, which goes like this. Looks a little different, doesn't she? Well, she is special. You are looking at one-of-a-kind animal, never seen before. She was found after getting hit with a car in southern Brazil and was taken to an animal rehabilitation center. It looks like a dog other than its long pointy ears, and it barks like one. Trouble is, digoxin, and that is a total quote, digoxin of course is heart medicine. Trouble is, digoxin doesn't act like one. Refusing dog food and climbing bushes, she acts like the local foxes in Brazil, and just like them, she likes to eat rats. It was considered that she might be a mix of a domesticated dog and a species of wild dog, so DNA testing was done. The results were staggering, part dog and part fox. While they're distantly related, the two breeds forked over 6 million years ago, and the differences in DNA between the two now should have made Dachshund, I think Dachshund is probably the proper name given to the creature, impossible. Yet here she is. There was so much against this happening. Domestic dogs have 78 chromosomes and pampas foxes have 74 chromosomes. Dachshund, DOGXIM, has 76 chromosomes. I expect we will never see another one like her. Unfortunately, she died at the first of this year. Golly, a fox-dog hybrid, and with DNA evidence to back it up. That is what I have been looking for years. Except, of course, it's nothing of the sort. First of all, one of the most annoying things about Quora, even though I enjoy reading it and I get all sorts of interesting things from there, is that so often these stories are undated. This story turned up in my Quora feed a few weeks ago, and when it said that the dog in question had died on the first of the year, one immediately assumed it was the first of this year. Well, it wasn't. This apparently is a reasonably well-known case, and she died at the beginning of 2022, with her rescue and study being in 2021. But this isn't all. I didn't know much about the South American foxes, and what I certainly didn't know, and look at this more detailed cladogram, is that they are only very distantly related from the Old World foxes. And indeed, the only reason that they've been called foxes is that they are superficially similar, particularly having big bushy tails, just like Reynard and Reynardine in the old stories. As you can see here, they're far more closely related to the canidae, the true dogs and wolves. So, although it's very interesting that you still got an intergeneric hybrid, it's nowhere near as exciting as it would have been if it had been an intergeneric hybrid between one of the true foxes and one of the true dogs. Something else I found out, though, which I truly didn't know, is that one of the South American foxes was historically, although sadly it was wiped out in an ongoing campaign of extermination against the native South American Indians in that part of South America, one of the South American foxes actually was one of the few wild dogs to be successfully domesticated. Check this out. Now, this is even more complicated than I'd originally thought, and it isn't helped by the fact that Archibald is sitting on my computer keyboard and Lilith is doing her best to make sure that she can cuddle me more than Archie does. But while we are sorting out their difficulties, here is the first bit of my explanation about the Fuegian dog, or Yaghan dog, or Patagonian dog, which is an extinct type of canid. In comparison to the domestic dog's ancient wolf ancestry, the Fuegian dog was traditionally thought to be bred and domesticated from the South American Culpeo, which is also known as the Culpeo fox. However, 2023 research suggested that the traditional accounts of the Fuegian dog were in fact of two totally different animals. The culpeo itself is similar in form and stature to true foxes, although it is closer genetically to wolves, coyotes, and jackals. Thus, it is placed in a separate genus within the South American foxes or zorros. Now you know why I called the episode what I called it. There are very few remaining museum specimens or examples of the Fuegian dog. One is at the Museo Salesiano Magorino Bogatello in Chile, and another is at the Fagnano Regional Museum in Tierra del Fuego, Argentina. Now it gets more complicated. An investigation, a genetic investigation, was carried out in 2013 using hair samples from taxidermied specimens of Fuegian dogs. These are from the Fagnano Regional Museum in Tierra del Fuego. The DNA from the hair samples was compared with that of various canids that inhabit Patagonia, such as the culpeo fox, the South American grey fox, and the pampas fox, and with that of domestic dogs. This analysis showed a greater similarity between the Fuegian dog and the culpeo of 97.57% than with the domestic dog. These results were supported by molecular phylogenetic analysis suggesting an atypical domestication of culpeos by hunter-gatherers inhabiting Patagonia. In a review of historical accounts and the current scientific literature by Didnt and Castro in 2023, they argued that the Fuegian dog was actually two different animals, which they labelled as the Fuegian dog and the Patagonian dog. In their analysis, the Patagonian dog, used by the Selknam, Iokanek, and Mananak peoples, was a domesticated breed descended from the culpeo, whereas the Fuegian dog, used by the Kronos, Kawaska, and Yagan people, was descended from an ancestral domestic dog population brought across the Bering Strait. But it is fascinating how in this peculiar group of animals, which are neither dogs, wolves, or foxes, at least one species has been successfully domesticated, even though they were wiped out in a successful genocide of the people who domesticated them about a century ago. I could go on, but the story of these people and their ill-fated dogs is a sad and miserable one, and I'm sad and miserable enough today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back on Saturday. What am I talking about on Saturday? I have absolutely no idea because I can't remember. Oh yes, I can. We're talking the second part of my conversation with Jackie Tonks about her personal Bigfoot experiences. And I'm very much looking forward to that. So I'll be back on Saturday, and I'll be back next Wednesday with something completely different. And if you're going to be there watching it, boys and girls, especially you, Mr. McCrinnan, I'll be seeing you.